Hey guys, this is the shopping cart project for the Odin project. Here's a quick demo. We have a video. This is the home page. There's a video, and then if we scroll down, we can pick men's clothing or women's clothing. That basic nav bar that does the same thing. We see different items. We can click an item, and then we can choose whatever quantity. Let's add another one. Checkout, and it'll display the items that we've chosen with its set quantity, and it calculates the subtotal amount as well as the total amount, and it lists how many items you have. And this is all dynamic. If I alter the quantity, then everything here will update as well. If I add a hybrid down shortcode, yep, displays here. And yeah, that's the quick demo. So the structure of the project, I made three folders. The first folder contains two subfolders that include the photos of the items that we use, as well as an array that contains all the objects that has information about the individual clothing item, such as the price and the name. And then we have our components folder, which just houses all the components we use. And then containers, which is the object that holds our components. And then we have the route switch, which contains all our containers and its components and its appropriate routing. How the routing works. So we start with the route switch.js, and I made a quick nav bar that uses React links, and we connect it to the nav bar elements. So we have the home section, we have a shopping section that has the men and women's clothing section, and we have the checkout, which are these things here. So if we click shopping and we select a type, either men's clothing or women's clothing, we get led to the shopping item container, which displays all the clothing pieces. And each clothing piece is displayed as an item component. So each item component has a link attached to the image, so that when it clicks, it reroutes to the gender and then slash the item type. So for example, if we click this down oversized parka, it'll update the route here. And then if we see the route, it changes, and we now display the item detail container. The item detail gives us more information about the object. So one thing to keep in mind is that when we're on a men's item, we're only sending the men state and its state function. If we're in a woman's item, clothing item, we're only sending the woman's state and its state function. That's like the magic sauce of this application. How the states work. So we have 4 state variables: men, women, basket, and subtotal. These two just represent the array that houses all our clothing information. The basket will be all the items that we select and is in our checkout here. And our subtotal is just the total cost of everything in our basket array. So how everything links together is, if we go to a specific item and we select a quantity. We'll click add to cart. The button will run a function called add quantity. And what it'll do is it'll see if that object within our mens array has a property called quantity. If it does, we add the previous amount that it currently had, and then we update it based on the amount that we have from our number input. If it doesn't have the quantity property, then we'll simply set the amount that we have here as the quantity property. So how do we distinguish between updating the men or updating the woman's state property? So how that works is through here. I think this is probably wrong to do, but at this point in time I was pretty late into doing it, so this is the way she goes. So what I have here is, if I'm in men's item, then we'll only send the men state and its state function. So if we go to item detail, we'll see that we have a conditional. So because we're in a men's item, the woman's state and its state function are not sent. Therefore, we know that the item that we're on is a men's item. So we continue to send everything that relates to the men's state, and that's how we'll know to update the men's state object. If we select the woman's item, it's the same thing. Instead of running this section of code, we're now running this section of code, which passes on the woman's state and its state function. That's pretty much it. And then once that happens, once we update our states, we go back to our route switch, which contains a use effect. So the use effect will run every time the men or women state changes. So what we'll do is, first we create new arrays that will filter our men and women array state arrays, and it'll check to see which objects have the quantity property. And then once it filters out such that we only get an array that contains objects with the quantity property, we can now find the total amount by mapping that array. So we do that for both the men's array as well as the women's array, and then we'll have a total value, and then that total will be set to our subtotal state. The new basket, then we combine the men's basket and the women's basket, and we update our basket as well. That's pretty much it. Yeah, that's how the route switch and the states work together. The only problem that I find with the way I did it is that if I add, the order is not retained. So for example, if I add one thing here and then we go to a woman's item and then we go back to a men's item, we'd assume in the checkout it'd be the men's item, the woman's item, and then back to the men's item, or this oversized code. But because I did it the way that I did, and it's just filtering the arrays in sequence, the way that it's displayed is just the order that our data is ordered. So I guess that's the only issue I have with this project, but yeah, it was pretty fun. routing wasn't too challenging. It was actually really challenging to get this part combining with the quantity amounts so that it updates. But overall, it was a pretty fun project, and yeah, that's it for me.